Dr. Das, is it evading the kind of RT-PCR tests that we use currently? Have you found in your studies or
No,
research
no,
that?
no. So see, this is again immediate concern comes that whether it will miss the thing. But most of these kit that we are using are non-spike. They're not using the spike protein, which is heavily mutated in this case. They are using
Okay.
other genes, right? And they are using multiple genes. Now, one way we are actually thinking that it could be possible that if we see that it is positive for other two genes but negative for spike genes, that could be something like an interesting to check whether that might have the mutations. But that's not the only way. Sequencing is the ultimate way to figure it out.
Okay.
But just keep it in mind that all these test kit that we are using are multiple genes, and it's very rarely that all the genes primers will be evading, and then we are not able to do
So you're
it.
saying that at least this particular variant can still be detected by a standard
Sure.
RT-PCR test.
Yes. So far, there is
Okay.
no threat at this moment.
All right. I also wanted to ask you, two of the South African nationals have tested positive in Karnataka. Have their samples been given for genome sequencing? Were they
What
found to be carrying a strain of the Omicron virus in India?
See, the sequencing is not like an RT-PCR that you can just do it in 4 hours. It takes time. There's steps. So I think it's being sequenced, and as soon as the sequence comes, we'll disclose.
So also, what is INSACOG currently working on to increase the number of genome sequencing samples that we do? And what is that effort to that effect?
As I told you that we have been doing it from the sentinel sites. We are also doing it from the surge districts. We are doing for the super events, super spreader events. We are also doing all the vaccinated, reinfected cases, vaccine breakthrough cases, make sure that we are not missing any variants. But at the same time, now we have, we started with 10 laboratories. Now we have 38 laboratories. We have included the state laboratories along with us. And we are also stretching it to something little different. We are trying to include sewage surveillance to check in some cases where we are not seeing any reporting cases, but we can detect whether we can detect viruses in the sewage. That's something INSACOG is now trying to stretch it so that we can have a good surveillance even when the disease or the virus becomes endemic. Although it hasn't come to that stage, but we initiated into that direction so that we can have the sewage surveillance going on.
So do you think that we have reached the endemic stage yet, or are you not for this theory?
See, this is not the right time to discuss because people were talking about the endemic, but suddenly this cropped up. So we can't really say it because we don't know the virus haven't stopped mutating. So anytime it can come back heavily. So I think it's not the time to lower the guard. I think it's time to make sure that we are well protected.
So do you think that the current crop of vaccines that we have, whether it's the vaccines that are being used in India, Covishield, Covaxin, are seen to not work for this particular variant? Is this Omicron evading vaccines at this point?
See, this is something needs to be experimentally validated before making any comment. But as such, as I was saying, that usually that in any vaccines we uses multiple epitopes, and rarely all the epitopes can be evaded by the mutant virus. So it is not expected, but definitely needs to be checked. It hasn't come to India yet. If we have the isolates, we can actually test it in an animal model and try to see whether it is actually escaping or not, or we can do microneutralization assay to see the efficacy of the vaccines that are being vaccinated in the country. Those will be done once we have access to these isolates. But at this moment, it's a matter of concern. Definitely, it's a VOC, but there is no reason to panic. But we should be careful, like any other variant.
So my question to you also on boosters, because there's been a lot of debate over boosters, and countries like the United Kingdom, US, Israel, in fact, were one of the first ones to give out a third dose to immunocompromised population, and then moving forward to a younger population as well. And yet, Israel has seen a case of Omicron. UK is now witnessing 2 cases of Omicron. So what is the effectiveness of boosters then?
Well, if you remember the flu vaccines, every year they have to take flu shots. So it's all depends on how much memory cells they elicit, how much memory they elicit response, right? So, but you have to also think about it's a policy decision that in a country, at least the people should be first vaccinated with double dose. That's a priority. Then there should be, definitely the next step to see how we can sustain the protection, giving whether it's necessary for the further booster.
So having said that, children in India still remain unvaccinated as we are awaiting vaccinations for children. Do you think that should be made a priority right now?
It's a priority, definitely. Yes.
You're saying
the priority
it should be
is definitely to complete the second dose for everybody, and priority is definitely that everybody takes both the doses.
Okay, but also for children who are still unvaccinated in India.
Yes.
And
yeah, in general, the children are actually a little protected. Their immunity is much better than compared to us. But definitely, government is going to start.
So also, as we will be discussing booster doses for immunocompromised people, and as I've discussed with you earlier, that this particular strain also happens to be a mutation in a person who was immunocompromised, perhaps with HIV. But another point is that even our healthcare workers were the first ones, and the vulnerable population was the first one to have taken the vaccine. And we know from several studies and experts have said that the immunity begins to wane after some months. So perhaps they should also be included in providing the third dose?
Yes, definitely, yes. Because, we just have read in the newspapers that there is a outbreak in Karnataka, in Dharwad district. Some medical college have reported so many cases of these doctors who were infected. So, so definitely that alarms us that we should be careful, and we should definitely protect our frontliners. They are the one who save us, and we'll probably, I'm sure, there will be appropriate policy decisions taken.